Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Trotman, and I'm an executive intern for the Office of the President at St. John Fisher. Today, I'm here with Veronica Sheehan, one of Fisher's successful alums, to kick off the Executive Intern Speaker Series. Veronica is currently the Chief Operating Officer for the Make-A-Wish Foundation in Atlanta, Georgia. She has had over 25 years of experience in the world of communications today, notably with Time Warner, and which is now called Warner Media. And I, for one, could not be more excited to be with Veronica today as a communications and marketing major myself. So welcome, Veronica. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
You are so welcome. It's fun to talk about my life at Fisher and where I am now, and such a great experience for me. My friends are lifelong friends, and the foundation that I learned at Fisher has really helped me in so many different areas of my life. So I'm grateful.
Well, that's great to hear, and we definitely appreciate all your expertise. So could you tell us your story, the path that you took to get where you are today, and how it's impacted your life?
So I'm Brooklyn born and raised, and was lucky enough to hear about Fisher when I was in high school. I played volleyball for Fisher, and went up there on a cold February day. I remember to see it was snowing, and I still can't believe that I chose that school just because of the weather. But it was the best decision I made for me personally. Communication journalism major. I had a marketing minor, and graduated, went back to New York City. I'm one of those rare individuals that knew at an early age I wanted to work in the television business. So for me, going back home to New York City was very advantageous. I struggled a little bit to find a job. But one of my dear close college friends, Patty Hurley, now Patty Leon, she actually helped me get my first job. She met somebody at a pizzeria and struck up a conversation, and lo and behold, they needed someone for a job, and I got it the next week. So, again, everything leads back to Fisher, my first job. So I was in the television business for 20 something years. Was in Manhattan for 3 different opportunities, and then got recruited by Turner Broadcasting to move to Atlanta. And I'm someone that always believes that you should take risks in life, calculated risks, ones that, if they don't succeed, you still won't fail or fall too far. And so I packed up my bags at age 32 and moved to Atlanta, and then had a 16-year career with Turner that was owned by Time Warner and now is Warner Media. Eventually running global television operations for Turner Broadcasting. I was responsible for 1,600 employees in 4 different parts of the world, and really credit my communication journalism background for my success. And then when I was, 49 and decided to retire, I said, what's next? And I decided to go a little bit in a different path. I had been involved with Make-A-Wish on the board, and my heart was there. And I said, now it's time to do some real heart work for myself. And here I am, almost 3 years into a totally new career.
Wow. That's truly amazing. That's quite a journey. And your pizzeria story, I love that, because I'm a true believer that everything happens for a reason, and your connections definitely pay off. So that is a really awesome story. So why did you choose to go into the nonprofit sector and, like you said, make a career change? You kind of already addressed it, but yeah.
Well, after leaving Turner, I had lots of opportunities, and I said I can continue on this path. one thing that we did not mention is that I adopted my son on my own. So he's 11 now. He's still my little boy. He's 11 now. And when I was, doing global television operations, I had to travel to Hong Kong, Buenos Aires, London, parts of LA, up in New York. And it was a lot. It was a lot on him as an individual. And sometimes, you have to make decisions in life, what's best for you personally versus professionally. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what, I've had a really great career, the one career I really, really wanted. So when the opportunity came, in front of me to look at Make-A-Wish as an opportunity, it checked all the boxes. When you get, earlier in your career, you might have to take those jobs just to get your foot in the door. They may not be, exactly what you want. But know that as you continue to progress, you will get the opportunity to do things you really want to do. Mm-hmm. And I had 3 criteria for my next job, and Make-A-Wish checked all of them. And so it was a no-brainer for me to embark. And honestly, I am learning every day still. I make mistakes. I don't know certain things about nonprofit financials or nonprofit operations. And I'm like, life is not worth living unless you challenge yourself. Absolutely. And so that is, what I do every day. I honestly challenge myself every day.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's really awesome. So what is your favorite part about your job? It could be your work with Make-A-Wish currently, or it could also be pertaining to what you did at Time Warner as well.
So, when I was in the media business, one of the things that I actually have had an opportunity to do is give back, and give back specifically for women. I started at Turner the women's business resource group there, where our whole mission was to encourage women to take risks in their career, to stand up and say, I can do something, even when you might not think you can. So, that whole development of that program really, to me, was what the success. People would see she was this big senior executive, she had all this global responsibility, but when I look back on my career, helping others succeed really is what I like to hang my hat on. And then, fast forward, because I was an executive at Turner, I had an opportunity to have a fruitful financial career as well. And, aside from my work with Make-A-Wish, I also am a limited partner in a venture capital firm that was started by women. And we focus not just solely on minority-owned businesses and supporting them with capital, but it's a main driver of the firm. And so those are the things that really will continue to, fuel me into the future. And, I joke at Make-A-Wish, Georgia, I'm the oldest. I'm older than the CEO. And I love mentoring those individuals too. So, Maya Angelou would say, when you get, you give, when you learn, you teach. And I truly believe that that's what you do in life. So.
Wow. Well, I could say as a woman myself, it's women like you who are paving the way that definitely paved the way for us as students at Fisher. And, giving back, I know that, personally, Fisher has instilled that value in me through my 4 years. And, to see someone like you in these amazing positions with the Fisher education, the same Fisher education that I'm getting, it's truly inspiring. And, I can definitely appreciate that as well. So what was a moment in your career that you would look back and say you were proud of?
I think, my mom died when I was 35, and she was only 66, so she was young. I think her seeing me, that's when I was like, her seeing me truly succeed, Because when I first left Fisher and moved back home, I had to live with my mom till I was 26 because I couldn't afford to live on my own. And every day when I would travel back from Manhattan, and it was 7, 8, 9, even later at night, and I'm traveling on the New York City subway, you know, as a young female, my mom would just get so worried about me. And she'd be like, you should quit that job. Look at all your other friends. They're making so much more money. Live closer to where they work, you know. And so I joke, I think I might have told you this story earlier. If I would have listened to my mom, I would have quit. Right. And so I always joke with people, don't listen to your parents. But, you know, the day that I became a vice president at Turner Broadcasting, my mom knew that. Like, she doesn't know my success after that, but the fact that she knew that I was a executive at a media company and that I, you know, she was so proud of me, and that meant the world to me. I think there's so much I'm proud of. I'm proud of, you know, what we've accomplished as a team, and, you know, like I said about giving back with Turner Women Today and other, you know, mentoring that I've done. But I think that's where I was the most proud, to show my mom that I could do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, that's definitely something to be proud of, and that is really amazing. So what is one of the toughest parts of your job?
You know, the toughest part with any job, and the toughest parts in my career, have been about people, right? How does anything I do impact people? You know, when things are tough financially and an organization may need to downsize, or you may need to have a difficult conversation with someone, those are the things that always would make me nervous and really, you know, eat in my guts, right? So whenever, you know, now the tough part of my job is not being able to do something, right? Not being able to give someone an opportunity, or, you know, grant as many wishes right now, right? When we know that so many kids need the hope and the joy that a wish brings to them, when we're like, well, we don't have enough money to do that, that's the stuff that really, really eats at me. So when it's, you know, anybody knows, regardless of where you are, it could be, you know, you trying to get it, you know, and something, a pair of sneakers at school, and you don't have the money for it, or someone right now trying to get food on the table. When it comes to money, those are the things, and people's livelihoods, those are the things that are toughest about, you know, being in a decision-making role. So again, you know, when I was at Turner and I was running these technology groups, when I was, I mean, pull up my transcript if you need to. I mean, I don't think I took one science class at Fisher other than computer science. You know, they changed the core now, but back then I was like, thank you. Thank you. You know, math and science were not necessarily my strong points. And that's what I was doing. I'm managing very large budgets. I'm managing technology projects and infrastructure. And it came down to my ability to communicate, my ability to get a team to, you know, rally around a vision, a mission, a goal, and my ability to communicate to executives what was going on in very complicated situations and make them simple. So again, you know, that baseline education I got from Fisher was so vital to my success.
Awesome. Absolutely. And I honestly, when you were talking about, you know, the money situation with Make-A-Wish Foundation, I can definitely attest to that with some of the work that I do with the Teddy Dance for Love. You know, we have a budget and we would love to have that budget be endless. But going along with that, you know, I'm currently going through some of the similar aspects that you have with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and the impact of COVID that has had on our organization. And I'm sure, you know, it's impacted your organization as well. So if you could explain how it's impacted you and also how you've kind of dealt with that. That would be super helpful.
Sure. So, and I know you've gotten innovative, innovation and thinking, is this a possibility? The other thing too, it's really important, make the ask. Don't be afraid to make the ask, because even though people are struggling right now, they want to help other people. They do. But we've had to pivot. We have big walks, big events, that all had to go virtual. Our gala, which was supposed to happen in October, is our biggest moneymaker. We net at least $1 million or more every year, and we couldn't do that in person. And so, we just did a Trailblaze Challenge with, hikers hiked for 20 miles, and like, well, how do you, and we're housing everybody. How do we keep them safe? How do we give them the same experience that others got to have, without COVID? Then, our wishes, 51% of our wishes are travel wishes. Kids want to go to Disney World. They want to go to Disneyland. They want to go to Paris, and, their imaginations, I'm like, where is that island that they said they want to go to? And we've had to say, we can't do that now. So that's been tough. And things just look differently, and so, I think about for our own selves, right? We're healthy, fully healthy. We can do whatever we want. But if you have a critical illness, you can't always be that way, right? So they're the ones that have had to be the shut-ins, right? They're the ones that have had to be at home. So now I take that experience and say, relate to these children. You, at some point, this pandemic will end. We will get a vaccine distributed, and we can do again what we haven't been able to do. Some of these kids will not be able to do that. Think about that for a second. Think about what it's like not to be able to get to do anything. We're all in the same boat right now, but soon it won't be the case. So that's been our ability to touch and others to say, think about this situation you're in, and think about if you were a child that had a critical illness. And the pandemic might end, but it doesn't end for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can attest to, the challenges we've, with the Thai Dance for Love, we usually have the kids at the dance, and, now we're trying to figure out a way to get the kids involved and, make it still so much fun for them. But it is definitely a challenging time, and, I can definitely understand that. So what was your favorite part of Fisher? Or, you obviously see through social media how Fisher kind of looks right now. How is it different from when you were there? Kind of a fun question.
Yeah. Well, I'm very fortunate because I'm on the President's Advisory Council, so I get to hear at least two great updates every year. And Dr. Rooney I admire him so much, and I'm so proud of what he has done. I'm proud of all the presidents, but he's really, helping the college, really grow. And so I get to keep up to date on things. Truly, going so far away from me to college, it was an 8-hour drive at least from Brooklyn. And I didn't have my license I didn't get my license until I was 22. So I went through all of Fisher without not knowing how to drive. So I obviously didn't have a car. And, I couldn't go home on a whim. And so that community had to become my family almost immediately. I'm proud of playing volleyball for them. It was interesting because even though I grew up in this big city, my senior year, I got to go to Richmond College on an exchange program and study in London for a semester.
Wow.
And that opportunity completely opened my eyes to the world. And I thought I was already worldly because I'm this girl from Brooklyn, and I've been hanging out in Manhattan since I was 13. And so I was really grateful that Fisher had that program and that affiliation. And the heart of what I love about Fisher is the friendships that I made. These individuals are still, they're in my family, they're dear, dear friends. You know, I probably, you know, I'm staring at a picture of a bunch of them right now in front of me. You know, they are individuals that I can't see not doing life with. You know, and still in touch with some of my old professors, you know. It's just, you know, it's tough when you live in the South and your brother goes to Auburn, you know, big universities, they have these amazing, you know, alumni networks and, you know, college football. I didn't know what the heck college football was until really I moved down here. And, you know, I keep joking with Dr. Rooney, I'm like, can you make it a university soon? So at least I can say I went to a university and compete with Georgia and Georgia Tech and all of them.
Right.
But, you know, the network that Fisher does create is unstoppable.
Absolutely.
And, you know, if there's anything I can say to all of the students out there is that remember who these people are, build the friendships, continue them, because they may get you through some really, really tough times in life.
Wow, that's really awesome. Yeah, I can say personally, you know, everybody talks about the Fisher family and everybody, you know, uses those terms, and, you know, it is a cliche, but it does feel like home. And I will say, you mentioned my brother going to Auburn. When I dropped him off at, when we went to go drop him off at the university for his freshman year, and I about almost had a panic attack because it was so huge. The university was just it was huge. It was like a whole city. And so, you know, I definitely have found, you know, my fit at Fisher. You know, he's found his fit at Auburn and absolutely loves it. But I will say, being able to know almost everybody on the campus that you're walking by and at least knowing the faces that you're seeing every day. It truly is, you know, something special about the campus that I love. And I laugh when you say that, because I remember dropping it off and I was like, oh my goodness. But, you know, he found his fit, I found mine.
Yep. So funny story. I don't know if I told you this. My mom did not see Fisher until I was a junior.
Wow.
I picked the college myself. I flew on a plane from Newark, New Jersey airport up to Rochester airport, hailed a taxi with all my stuff at age 18 and got dropped off at the front of one of the halls, you know, and so, yeah, my friends were like, what if your mom doesn't like it when she comes to Parents Weekend junior year? I'm like, well, it's a little too late now.
Right?
You know,
that's funny.
Yeah.
So finally, last question. What advice would you offer me and other students at Fisher?
You know, it's the same thing that I said about, you know, when it comes to the Teddy Dance and you're trying to raise money, right? Don't be afraid of the ask. Every opportunity I've gotten in life professionally has been because I knew someone. And, you know, you've got to ask for help at things. You know, when you know, we had hoped that graduates in 20 and 21 would be going out to one of the best economies we've ever seen. And that may not be the case in May of 2021. Maybe it will, maybe it may not. The job market is coming back, even though there's a lot of people still unemployed. Don't be afraid to ask for things you want, because if you don't ask, you do not get. You know, I'm sure you've learned that in many different ways as you've, you know, fundraised for Teddy and other things, or just in your life. Take risks. If you have to move somewhere, move.
Right.
If you have to move for an opportunity, don't be afraid. You can always go back home. You can always go back home. And that's the way I felt at age 32 when I left all my friends and family. I'm like, if this doesn't work out, I'll move back. Don't be afraid to take the risks. Ask for help. And nothing replaces hard work. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care what your grades were. You show up early, you stay late, you take on the tough roles. I mean, honestly, I was working on the production side. So I was VP of operations and original productions for Turner Studios when my boss's boss came to me and said, we have a vacancy in this one area to run this part of the business that we think you'd be perfect for. Well, it was called network operations, and it was the broadcast operations for all the networks. And it's not a job most people want because it's a lot of stress. And it's not, I'm doing these great productions and dealing with all this talent. And now it's like back end infrastructure for the networks. But I knew it was potentially a catalyst to another area that I could learn. And taking that risk, my whole career just took off. Even though I was already a vice president, this made me become a senior vice president and then a global SVP, and the accolades I got and the opportunities to meet so many people. And so that was a big risk for me to leave what I loved to go do something completely different that I had no idea half the time what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So the risks you have to take the risks. And I say calculated risk because I knew this was a company that believed in me, that I could take this risk, right? I may not have jumped at another, like going to CBS or NBC and doing this job, but I was with a company that people believed in me. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to ask for what you want. Take risks, calculated risks, be hard work, and surround yourself with people that believe in you because you're going to need it at times. Yeah. When you don't believe in yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate that. When you were talking about the moving situation, I've only ever been in Buffalo or Rochester because I'm from Buffalo. So, as I graduate, I've been thinking of, where do I really want to be and things like that. And, I definitely appreciate that bit of advice. And this all has been so helpful, so amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time today to be with us. I know you've impacted my life with your words, and I know you will impact many people at Fisher's lives with your words as well. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to do this. I really appreciate it. I love, my Fisher family, not cliche. We believe in that. And, I just wish everyone, great success, good luck in finals, have a great holiday. And, next semester, everyone kicks some butt.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope you and your son have a great holiday as well.
Thank you.